All right, guys, we're back into the remake. So this is Team World Elite up against Flashdive. Forecourt Jester here with the amazing Papa Smithy all the way from Straya. I mean, if you can survive that and get all the way over here safely,
possible.
I mean, you're indestructible, sir. Indestructible. Had your other half here as well earlier, pastry time. It was always a pleasure to reconnect with half of my blood. I know that. So we saw level 1, a big confrontation here at this river entrance, this jungle entrance, and does not look like we're repeating the same pattern.
No, and funnily enough, there were some games in the Australian scene where we saw the same invades happening with the same players, the same spot. But MiTH, they've adapted this time. They're like, okay, face-checking that brush has not helped us. Sona had to, of course, use her flash in the previous game before the restart. But here, everyone's got their flashes up. We see it. A defensive ward is going to spot out World Elite's invade here. And how will MiTH respond?
Yeah, we had a lot of wards there on Sona. Of course, you see the Biscuit there, and probably had that Explorer ward as well. But they did throw down those wards because they suspected that World Elite was going to be going forward. In terms of that, this is exactly where Jax was caught last time, just before he was just before he did drop that first blood. But that actually missed. Oh, that could be very dangerous. But he turns around right at the right moment, and Fizziv is not going to be landing any kind of hooks because there's no one there to hit.
And that would have had to have been a flash engage there, which, I mean, World Elite didn't group up for it there, so it wouldn't have been a 2 or 3 man. It would have just been on Fizziv. It probably would have been a failed engage there. So probably good that they backed out here. But unfortunately, I must admit that hook from Fizziv, such a practiced and talented skill shot-based player, looked a bit off, so perhaps we're still dealing with some issues.
So, you know, Flashdive wisened up a little bit. They did throw out those defensive wards. They saw the invade. They set up that ambush, but as you said, it would have had to been that flash engage from PSK. He had that counter-strike ready to go, but if he had flashed in and only stunned one team member of World Elite, you have no escapes. No. And that would have been basically the first blood in a nutshell. And
of course, if it was Thresh, who of course was the most advanced person, he's quite tanky. He had, I believe, Ignite. He also had the Death Sentence available to just re-engage with his team there. It would definitely have been too hasty, so a good, smart decision to back out.
And unfortunately, once again, our computer is backing out on us. World Elite and Flashdive just, it's been a heck of a day, Papa Smithy.
Heck of a day.
Heck of a day. It has been definitely a little bit of a rocky start here, but we do have a crowd in front of us. And again, like a lot of these pro players, especially a lot of these China players, have their own enormous crowds just following them.
An entourage, we could say?
An entourage. Yep, that's a really good way to put it.
Good show as well.
I'll have to take your word on that one. Never actually sat down to watch it. But here we go. Fingers crossed, my friend. Fingers crossed. Again, grouping up here at the blue. Mibu definitely really wants to make sure that he picks it up because it's going to help out so tremendously well for his jungle. But I think I see an Ezreal Thresh up top.
Which is very interesting. They want to 2v1 the Jax, which the Castle, in fact, is the big one. It looks like it's going to be the 1v1 matchup. We're not going to see the 2v1 mid here. I mean, Jarvan, I imagine, has the potential to have a field day in the mid lane here. If a bandage ever hits in combination with EQ, so much burst damage coming out. But looking at how the members are moving here, this is probably a bad sign for this game.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go with a little bit of hijinks being ensued right now as PSK is glowing in all fanatics, and Messiah is not bothering to move whatsoever. We definitely have something going on. And I'm not liking it, sir. There we go. Once I saw the hook go through Jax, you know that something was up. But he also just almost looked like he just face dived right into that. I mean, right from that brush. I'm not entirely too sure he was expecting a 2-on-1, but Shyvana will be trying to hold down the bottom lane as best she can. You also saw her helping out Red for that Lee Sin. So if he goes from a red to a blue, that could be a gank top, and that would be a 3-on-2. A 3-on-1 scenario.
So although we haven't seen a lot of action here, I'm very interested in discussing the lane matchups here. So the first thing we noted there is sending your bot lane top. So they really want to 2v1 this Jax, which makes a lot of sense. Of course, Jax in a lane doesn't have many lane counters. There are a lot of champions that he does well against. His scaling into the late game when he finishes the Trinity Force, and especially the Blade of the Ruin King on top of that, is insane. He becomes the champ, just like his lore suggests.
The hyper carry in all definitions.
But the interesting thing here is they've gone for trying to hold down the enemy hypercarry instead of helping out their hypercarry. They seem happy to let Cassidy flounder a bit in the middle, maybe relying on Clearlove just to relieve some pressure in a 2v2 situation. And they're happy to send Shyvana in a 1v2. I mean, Shyvana, on paper, you'd be like, well, she doesn't have a lot of ranged abilities, but what she does have is when the wave finally hits the turret, she has massive wave clear. Her W ability, her burnout, it only ticks for 25 damage at level 1. That's 25 damage over many seconds. The base damage on that ability at level 5, just to give you an idea. So when she hits level 9, because that's usually the first ability maxed, 580 base magic damage there, which will clear out a wave in no time. So that wave clear, she's much happier in a 1v2 than Jax. And they're just kind of hoping, fingers crossed, the experience of Messiah, such a wonderful player for so long, is that he'll be able to stay competitive in the mid lane, set him up for the late game, and really hold down that Jax. So I really like this decision by World Elite, but it's risky. There are flaws in that plan.
There are, and I mean, MiTH Flashdive might be able to just poke holes in that. That is not a good sign whatsoever, as we're going to attempt to reconnect so we can see what's going on. And, well, again, let's keep those fingers crossed. Now, Shyvana's also very sturdy in terms of she has a lot of scaling armor, a lot of scaling magic resist going into at least her level 6. But she also has, as you said, a lot of that wave clear, and she has those on-demand kill buttons. I mean, the double strike, the fireball under that tower with that damage ticking out, gets low. You need to, solidify that last hit. Q, E, no problem.
And it's not something I've really thought about, but you're right. When you're lusting under turret, a double hit makes you really strong, as we see J4 take some damage here.
Yeah,
when there's a lot,
dive.
and when there's a lot of minion wave, when there's a big minion wave, the burnout helps you AoE clear. And if they're freezing the wave, your E ability lets you last hit from range. So she does have those options. I mean,
fairly limited options, but options nonetheless.
Well, compared to Jax, who
absolutely
does have an escape. He is able to use his leap strike to friendly units and escape.
If there's
from the
a
lane.
friendly unit.
If there's a friendly unit.
Sometimes that's a double-edged sword. You kind of fool yourself into being safe, and you're really not.
He can dodge some damage and maybe stun 2 members. So when you gank a Jax lane, he does have an AoE stun that he can use from range, which is good. But he doesn't have any AoE wave clear. So he always struggles when you put a large minion wave at his turret, because he'll try to slowly last hit each of those minions, but he can't control the wave, and he will eat a lot of poke merely auto attacking a last minion.
Well, let's say that Amumu comes top to try to relieve a lot of that pressure. He started blue. He's going to go red, and likely it's going to be a gank up to the top in around the 3 to 4 minute mark, or a gank into the mid, because we got some really juicy targets. I mean, you got Thresh, no escapes, but he does have Flay, and he does have that re-engage, so at least he can stall out. You got Ezreal, who will very likely not get caught this early on.
No.
But then you also got Cassidy in the mid. So if he goes top, if you can get off the bandage into the AoE stun from Jax, you might be able to take down Thresh. But I really have doubts about Ezreal. So what's he going to pick? Is it going to be the solitary Cassidy in the bottom that can't get away from Jarvan jumps as well as the Amumu? Or is it going to be Amumu going top, and they're going to try to focus on this 2v1 and just try to keep them down?
I mean, on paper, Jax is a good lane to gank because, as I said, he has a gap closer, he has AoE CC potentially, or situation, and his base damage is pretty high. He can auto attack, cancel that auto attack with Empower, and get a nice burst of damage out there. So in a 2v2 situation, Amumu Jax, there's 2 stuns there, there's quite a lot of burst damage, and Thresh has already actually used Exhaust during one of those earlier trades. Unfortunately, I believe the Exhaust was thrown down. I could be mistaken. No, the Exhaust is on cooldown. Unfortunately, Weizhou actually took a turret hit during the issues there, which is a bit silly, as we see the pause coming out there. So I can see the 2v2 up top, but I mean, Amumu, the one thing you can say is
Mumu's coming.
He's coming. He won't pressure Cassidy too much just because he doesn't have a lot of damage.
But they also know that he's coming. Look at those 2 wards. Those early wards were countered out, of course, so everyone kind of knows what's happening in that top jungle. So if they saw him go straight up to that right after the red, they can probably guess, since the wave is so pushed, that Amumu's just going to come straight back into the lane, but they don't have any vision right there at that tri-bush. So if he does come in, especially with the Weizhou this low, they might be able to insta-give him before any kind of flash or arcane shift comes out.
Sitting on the pause issues here, just looking at some of the itemization. We see Jax, he's gone for the really heavy regeneration start in lane, which makes a lot of sense here. He's had his lane warded for by the support at level 1. He needs a lot of regeneration because, as we say, whenever he uses a melee range auto, he's going to probably harass from both members because those 2 ranged members on the
flays and hooks, he's going to have to be dodging all day, and mystic shots, auto attacks from Ezreal.
I mean, one of the strengths of Thresh, of course, one of the Thresh's big points is he has the CC of a melee champion with range, having a ranged auto.
With range, yeah.
And, of course, his range also applies the E passive, of course, which you rank up first, which increases the amount of auto attack damage that Thresh will do. and as a support in general. You're only attacking once every 5-6 seconds, getting out that big burst of damage there. Such a lane bully is Thresh, but all the nerfs are really targeted at his survivability. He's quite squishy, has very, very low base armor. So that's where that 2v2 gank, it feels like you remember Thresh is tankier than he is, let me tell you.
He is deceptively tanky, that's for sure. And
the
he's
late
just going to
game.
keep scaling as well. I mean, all those souls that he's going to collect, nom nom. He just loves them up, laps them up, no problem. And going into it later on, I mean, if he's going to be the initiator for your team as well, you need to have a decent amount of health or armor to back that up, depending on what your enemies are going to be rolling. And in this case, like, again, game number 1, we had a double AD comp with the Quinn Lucian. But this time, for the MiTH Flashdive, you know, they got the Jax, Amumu, Jarvan, Lucian, Sona. So if that's not going to be a tank Jarvan, that's going to be an assassin Jarvan. And assassin Jarvan and Lucian, you're going to need armor against that.
If it's going to be an assassin Jarvan from the mid lane, usually the rush is the Ravenous Hydra, just because when you put
much clearer.
If you put the EQ down, your Q of course does apply the armor shred as part of its passive. That Hydra proc, you know, combined with the ultimate, with just the base damage, of course the passive also does physical damage, which does percentage health damage. The burst damage that Jarvan puts down when he gets a Hydra is insane.
It is.
It might be Hydra into tanky, it might just be a brutalizer for a bit of early pressure. It'll be very interesting to monitor that Jarvan, because as you say, you're never really 100% sure which build path he'll stick with.
Armor penetration into lifesteal is a very solid path if you are going to go more of an assassin style. And I was talking about you know, the rise of the Black Cleaver and the AD assassins way back in the beginning of Season 3 with Pacer Chime and
League of Cleavers.
League of Cleavers, yeah, League of Black Cleaver. And now, unfortunately, because that was the Season 3 preseason, and now with the Season 4 pre-season patch, it's the League of Tarragon.
Which we're not seeing here.
I see a pattern.
We're not seeing here, thankfully, just because that, you know.
We're not on the
3.14 in terms of competitive plays is a little bit off, I think, in terms of balance. They're hot fixing it. They know what's up.
Yeah.
It'll get there.
They have there's jobs to do, and that's exactly what preseason's for. They're going to test out a lot of this stuff. Now, if you recall, though, before they deployed the patch, they said they had to really rework their new jungle strategies because some of the top-tier junglers are just absolutely destroying all the internal playtests. But then patch comes out, and I think I saw, I was reading some math, and you could literally go AFK with gold per 10 runes and still almost equal out that of a farming jungler in this current patch.
They've still got a lot to work on, for I think it's fair to say.
Like, what happened to the whole jungle was awesome, because that is not the consensus right now.
Well, I think the happy thing we can say is we're not on the 3.14 patch for a tournament as massive as WCG. As you pointed out,
that would be quite the shock. Had that actually occurred.
$60,000 on the line with the far more balance, at least relatively so. 3.13 patch here. We still have strong champions here. We unfortunately do have a lot of spicy champions disabled, like Olaf and Syndra, who are very strong and competitive play right now, but of course have their issues, so they've been globally banned here. We don't see the return of the Heimerdinger. No raising of Dongers this tournament, sadly.
No, we made that joke game number 1 as well.
And interestingly, on the weekend in the LPL finals, Sivir was available. So it was interesting to see competitive teams starting to pick up Sivir, but no Sivir either here. So we've still got the Lucians, you know, the Shyvanas, the Renekton's, the really strong champions on the patch right now. So it's just interesting to see what the teams do as they kind of perfect the end of the Season 3 style. Because Season 4, it's going to be something different.
Well, we did have, so far, a Lucian, an Ezreal, and a Caitlyn. So between the two games, we had 3 of our ADCs already picked up. I mean, I'd be very interested to see kind of the diversity. I mean, I've been doing all my notes here, so at the end of the day, I'm going to compare with some of the other streams to find out what kind of diversity we are. But 3.13, with some of these global bans, I really would have loved to see Sivir. But
on the ADC side, I mean, Lucian is a lane bully, and we talked about how he compares to Draven, who was a champion that pushed out a lot of AD choices just because you couldn't afford to run them against Draven.
The age of Draven and Twitch, unfortunately, seems to be behind us.
And when it comes to Lucian, Caitlyn's very safe. I mean, Caitlyn's always safe, of course, with her auto attack range.
Safe and solid, just like
Vayne is the skill matchup choice, just because you can tumble out of Lucian's Q.
Yeah.
You know, Lucian's Q, although it does snap to target, that 0.35 second cast time, enough time to tumble out of it there. So there is the outplay potential right there.
So that's the Crossfire ad up there, where they show off some of the mod ability, and then they kind of get into the comedy routine. I've been watching that ad all day, my friend.
I've actually been casting Crossfire.
Yeah, how did that go?
Well, it's my first experience with first-person shooters, and I'm sure my Twitter will have some dirty comments, but I did try my
Possibly.
best. I was play-by-play. It was something different, but WCG, all hands on deck, trying out some new things. Good fun.
If anybody recalls last year with the WCG, there's
With Doa's adventures in Dota 2.
Crazy Sword McGee. That was some funny stuff. But I mean, he's come a long way as well since then, and now he's arguably top 2 this side of the world for when it does come to that League of Legends style. I see Jax being played there by China.
So you have to think we'll be going back into games soon.
Well, I
Fingers
actually
crossed.
think that we're doing another remake.
And it also could be a test game here just to work out whether...
Yeah, it looks like he is just doing a latency test. They did buzz us in there. Yeah, he's
there
just
we
all
go.
by himself. So again, within the rules, I'm suspecting that if there's no first blood, it's within 5 minutes, then you do have this option to remake. So, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're just testing out latency. Is going to get back into this, and eventually we will have Team World Elite take on MiTH Flashdive here.
And the integrity of the tournament is a very important thing. It's really unfortunate for the casters and viewers, of course, that we're waiting on these games here. We're unfortunately way behind schedule, but we're super excited to hopefully see World Elite's debut into this tournament.
Yeah, had we actually been on time, we would have been approaching the last game of the day instead of the second. But, I mean, hey, no sleep for esports. And I, for one, I'm not going to go anywhere until we have all these games out there ready to go for all of our viewers out there in Twitch land and wherever else we're broadcasting to at this point. But, again, thank you so much for all your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, it's not any easier on this side of things, but it really is a fantastic venue. So we still see a lot of people going back and forth. A lot of big talent is here. Doa and Monty Christoroff doing some amazing things over on the main stage. I believe you and Pastry Charm are going to be doing some amazing D stage tomorrow.
Fingers crossed, assuming that some of these
Yeah.
issues get solved. It'll be good to cast for Page Time. We haven't had a chance yet so far today, but
I'm sorry,
bringing back
sir.
Papa Time is something that we definitely have on the cards.
Papa, I was trying to remember what your code name
It's
was.
catchy.
I thought it was Pastry Smithy. That does not work.
See, look, that's an option.
whatsoever.
Obviously, those words go together, but it's not catchy.
Nah,
It's not
it's really
cool.
not.
Papa Time is cool.
Papa Time. It almost sounds like it should be a movie. It's just like, what time is it?
Well,
It's
I mean,
Papa Time.
if the demand's there, forecourt, a Papa Time movie.
Somebody want to approach you with a script, you're saying you're amenable?
I'm all ears.
You're all
ears. And unfortunately, at the moment, we're not all latency, as we just really haven't been able to get these games
We're
going
all
yet.
ears.
So my question to you is, MiTH the first game.
Yep.
They went to invade. It didn't work. They had to bow the flash in their support. They had a reprieve. They're like, oh, thank God. Remake. We'll do the second time. We'll try something different, which they did.
They set up
They
the
got
ambush.
the wards down well. They set up the ambush. Unfortunately, latency issues caused some interesting interactions between
Hesitation or
Thresh and Jax.
latency, yeah.
Absolutely. Third time's the charm. What do you do here if you're MiTH? You really want to get those wards down.
Yep.
It worked pretty well the second game. Do you stick with what you did the second game? Do you go back to the first game strategy? How many layers upon layers is there to the level 1 we're finally going to see?
Well, since it is World Elite and they're 2 for 2 for the invade, it's probably a safe bet to say that they're going to go 3 for 3. They're an aggressive team. They know this game inside and out. They've been playing for years. Earlier, the Clash of the Summoners. It was a 2011 the debut of World Elite into League of Legends, and that was actually when Tarek Caitlyn became a thing. That was Tarek Dazzle on top of a Caitlyn trap, and then from there you just rock up to them, shatter, and Piltover. Later on, Ace. That was the combo, and it was a scary combo to go against. I mean, they've evolved their play since, but they haven't gone anywhere.
And the experience factor you point out is doubly important here just because although they're one of the elder statesmen of the competitive play, they also have not changed their roster in a long time.
Yeah, they're very solid.
It was actually a month before Season 2 World Finals that Clearlove and Fizzif joined the team. And now we're talking about a month after Season 3 World Finals. So in League of Legends especially, to not have changed your roster in 14 months or so gives you a really big advantage in terms of the synergy, in terms of the control they have. They're very comfortable playing with each other, and they're very comfortable to try and overcome some of the challenges they had in Season 3.
Cal Mei, Messiah, Wei Zhao, definitely the 3 veterans of the team. As you say, Clearlove and Fizzif coming in a little bit later after that. But
I mean, we're still talking 14 months. Think about how much
that's
League of
a long
Legends,
time.
how much has changed in 14 months. 14 months ago,
there was no OGN Pro League. There was no LCS. There was still all these amateur tournaments that pros could play in. And 14 months ago, we had an IPL. There you go. 14 months can make a huge difference.
I mean, if you're a Water Elite fan, you'll be a bit sad just because, unfortunately, the last 10, 11 months haven't treated you so well. But they're a monster of competitive League of Legends. There's a reason why they haven't had these roster swaps. They obviously see huge potential in the members they do have. They're a sleeping giant of League of Legends for sure. And when they finally wake up and erupt, and once they really, maybe it'll be Season 4 meta where they'll be able to state their claim. But so much potential from this team. And I, for one, will be super surprised if we don't see World Elite in at least the semifinals of this event here. Yep. They're one of the favorites for sure.
Definitely a lot of enthusiasm getting behind OMG, getting behind World Elite, but we also got CJ Entus here from Korea. I mean, they came over and they're in just fine form when it comes to this game.
I mean, Blaze are an interesting team. They swept the Korea qualifier. They looked, and it was a surprise. They obviously have a new lineup here. They finally took Captain Jack off the starting lineup there, their long-time AD carry. They took Helios and moved him to their sister team, Frost. Team World Elite, they're the team we're focusing on here. Hopefully, third time's the charm. Fingers crossed, touch wood, whatever your superstition is. Let's get this game underway here because it's going to be a spicy one.
So I really do suspect it is going to be World Elite going again through the jungle up to the red. And you can see Sona once again. Valen is going to be throwing down that Explorer Ward, throwing down his own wards as well, and you see all the pings, and once again, Messiah leading the crew here right back to this very same spot.
Now, interestingly here, it is the regular ward that's been put down here. That is not an Explorer Ward. The regular ward's been put down. The Explorer Ward is put up to the Tribush for top lane here, and Myth, they're going with the Game 2 plan here, or their second attempt at regame here.
Very dangerous there from Fizz. If had he gone actually through that river, could have found himself in a little bit of a tight spot between Amumu and the rest of the team from the Myth Flashdive, but I mean, it looks like 3 for 3. I would have lost that bet. They did not go up for that invade. In fact, they're going a little bit safer. It looks like maybe even a delayed blue.
Now, a late invade on Amumu's blue. We have to note, of course, it is Amumu, a blue-centric jungler, especially before the Spirit Stone here. And we've got how many members? We've got 4 members looking for the invade here. The Thresh has the Death Sentence available, has Exhaust available for a bit of extra CC. Successful gank incoming, perhaps, but this is definitely going to be an interesting late invade.
Well, if they do try to kind of invade at this point, they are going to go up against the Might of 5. I see Lucian, and I think that's Sona right beside him as well. Yeah, looking at that. It looks like they are going to head up top. So this is going to be different than game number 2 in terms of we are going to have that lane swap up to the top, but I still think it's going to be Jarvan their mid, and here we go. It's going to be the 4-man invade into the blue. They're just waiting for it to spawn, and Fizziv, he's going to try to go for that shot. They do find a movement. That's 13. PSK already threw out the dodge. He has to go roll out that flash, and it does not look like we're going to get that sickle and chain on top of Amumu, but still, that's going to be the loss of his blue. You can see the zoning coming out now as well from Thresh, and that's going to be the smite as well from Lee Sin. So that's another sad mummy, unfortunately.
And I'm going to make a bold statement here, Full Court.
Okay.
Of the 3 versions of this game we've seen so far, this is the worst one for Myth. And that's surprising given that a flash was blown in the first game that we saw. But the issue here, Myth, what they've done here, of course, is they've anticipated the 2v1 up top, sent their top lane atop, but what don't they have? If you look down at the mini-map here, no aggressive red wards came out apart from this blue ward that's down now. They actually did not have any idea of who will be ending up top. They've actually ended up in a 2v1 anyway, and now Amumu has no blue buffs. So they're really on the back foot at just the 2.5 minute, the 3 minute mark of this game.
Well, Shyvana just comes down from the top to help out Lee Sin at his own blue. He does not want to deal with that 2v1, but it is going to be Jax up against, once again, Ezreal as well as Thresh, and now Amumu off to a much more terrible start as opposed to game number 2. Yeah, without that blue, his jungle's going to suffer a little bit, but now where does he go? I mean, he's going to be low on mana. He's not exactly going to be, flush with that ganking potential, and as you can see, Cao Mei does have that blue, so double blue early on. It's not going to Cassidy, it's not going to, the double blue on top of the Lee Sin, but man, that Shyvana on that blue, as you see it, we talked a lot about her wave clear, and just having that blue is going to be a massive energy gain.
And the interesting thing here is to actually flesh out what you've just said. You might think, hey, I mean, Shyvana doesn't even have resources. Why does it matter to give her blue? You know what it does give her? It gives her very low cooldown. The 20% CDR gives her very low cooldown on AoE wave clear.
Yep.
So what can you say about that? Well, expand that point and say, hey, her turret's probably going to last a while because she's going to have more wave clear. It's going to be harder to push down her turret because she's going to be able to AoE wave clear down minions when they come to the turret. Now let's also think about the fact that Amumu, he's going to be forced into his jungle. He has to jungle till he gets Spirit Stone, which he has now. He's going to clear the jungle quite slowly and be behind. He's not going to have much lane pressure. So basically they have...
Oh, they know he's there. There was a ward right there. That's going to be a perfect Sonic Wave. And here comes Fizz, but unfortunately he does miss it out. And now with the safety of his tower, it does look like 13 is going to be okay for now. But man, had that actually been the first blood, not only is Amumu super behind Clearlove, not giving up on this chase, making sure that Amumu just has to hoof it back, but it is just going from bad to worse for Amumu.
And to finish my point off, I see Messiah potentially getting caught by Jarvan here, but I believe the EQ combo is not available. The silence there, beautifully timed. The flare comes down, silence put out, no knock-up available from Jarvan. But just to finish off my point, having wave clear on their top laner and having no jungler to apply pressure means the early turret should come down, and here comes the dive, but Amumu is in position.
Yeah, PSK is actually going to turn it back around. Tower shots on top of Fizziv. He ate a little too many there, but Amumu was in a terrific position. As you said, he hadn't given up on this lane, and that's the 3v1 that was one of those possible ganking potentials that we were talking about on our downtime. So a 3v1. If they had taken out PSK, that probably was going to be the tower, but if you also look at the difference between the farm potential of Jax as well as Shyvana is definitely getting the better of the deal.
Absolutely. The blue buff, the AoE wave clear is working out, but unfortunately, he might actually fall here so low in health.
PSK did not get the kill, and again, it looked like a little bit of a miscommunication between them. Fizziv is, not exactly super healthy, but at half, Wei Zhao did have that arcane shift ready to go, but, Jax engaged that at 10% hit points, and it just looked like he was expecting a lot of help, and he just didn't get it. So first blood going to go the way of Team World Elite. They're going to take that home all the way to the bank, but they're probably going to lose this top tower in the next
They don't seem very
push.
concerned about it, though. No, it looked like Wei Zhao was going to back there, canceled his back, but probably not going to have enough pressure here. Despite having the blue buff, despite having AoE wave clear available on Shyvana, it looks like the turret damage advantage is with MiTH.
No, Clearlove is now going to be up top as well. And again, we've actually doubling the farm of Jax compared to Shyvana. Shyvana has enough in the bank to pick up a Giant's Belt.
So much more power than just, unfortunately, the Doran's Blade is the only pickup that Jax can afford.
Yeah. Well, when you kind of suicide like that as a first blood, you don't really go home with a lot in the bank. But that will be the tower. Messiah not looking so healthy here. G4 doing all right. So he's been actually doing pretty good up against Messiah here in the mid. 30 creeps to the 38. And, Jarvan is just really laying down a lot of the pain. We saw it earlier, but Fizziv is, for some reason, camping out in the mid. But I don't think anything's going to come of it.
Now, a counter lane matchup to only be, let's have a look at it here, a small amount of CS is a problem, as we see.
Oh, man, Clearlove came in there with that safeguard on top of the ward and was able to take home the kill on top of Jarvan. Maybe a little bit too overconfident from G4. Maybe he thought that Fizziv was going to be the one to come. Wasn't too worried, but here's Fizziv in the bottom. PSK is going to be able to jump away to the creeps. Had those not been there, would have been a much different story as we got the 2v1 on the mid. 13 is not looking so healthy. Many tower dives, but Messiah looks like he's able to juggle it just enough, but they weren't able to burst down the sad mummy quite enough.
And this is a lot for MiTH to be worried about here. Kunshan has a kill. He's only 3 CS behind the counter lane matchup here. That's a really bad spot for MiTH.
Now Lucian might be able to make something happen with Clearlove, but unfortunately did just use that dash, and they, again, lose out that blue. It's going bad to worse for this Amumu. I'm not entirely too sure why our timer is deciding to pop up, but Messiah going to get caught out. That's going to be the ignite, and that should be the kill. G4 able to return the pain quite admirably, as we got 3 kills now on the board at the 8-minute mark.
And you just had to think that Messiah was in the shop there, plotting on what to spend his gold on, but very nice answering kill come out. But it might be too little too late, just because we look at the CS values here, it's really hurting. Messiah having 36 to 44 CS with a kill is a massive thing.
But he's going to come back with that tier. Has a little bit of armor as well. So this is where we get to really see where Jarvan's going to go with his build. And then look at this. I mean, they go right back to the blue. So double blue, once again, going to be in the hands of World Elite at the 8-minute mark. And that's 4 buffs to 0 so far.
That's actually a blue steal coming out there, because Jarvan, of course, is on the MiTH side there, so is able to steal away a blue here.
Yeah, Clearlove's on the other side.
Kunshan no blue, but he does have a lot of stats.
G4 thinking about it. For some reason, I kind of swore that Clearlove was on red side, but
that's okay.
No idea why. Either way, 2-1. So yeah, they finally do get a blue buff on the board. So I'm going to take all that stuff back. Fizziv with the souls coming out. But Jarvan has those double longswords, so it's likely going to be that brutalizer. I'm curious where he'll go from there. or he could just actually keep one of those long swords for now and go into lifesteal.
And it could still be the Ravenous Hydra, just because of course, one of them building into the Tiamat, one of them building into Vamp Scepter. Yep. So that's an option. Brutalizer, of course, is a lot of power in the mid game here, as we see a potential game coming in.
A lot of options, yeah.
Nice evasive maneuvers coming out from Jarvan here.
Clear Love has been making quite the presence there in the mid as well.
It's worth noting that despite everything, because of that turret being down, the global gold does mean that Myth is only 200 gold behind World Elite. But you have to remember the hypercarry Cassian doing all right. That's just a worrying thing if you're a Myth fan.
Well, 40 creeps to the 60 of Jarvan. I'm not entirely too sure they're that worried about Messiah quite yet. And you can see it gets a little bit of that wave clear going now as well. Ezreal versus Lucian, if you take a look there, they're pretty even on the creeps, about 6 between them. But we do got the assist on Ezreal, and he has that Phage as well.
It's going to be building into the Trinity Force there, which is very standard on Ezreal.
Yep.
Now, Lucian, although we see Trinity Force Lucian coming out from the Korean teams, a lot of teams from other regions, for example, Immunities, Radia, Emperor from CJ Enterspace, they do prefer the Bloodthirster first on Lucian. And it looks like that will be the flavor of Lucian we see. Look at the punishment coming out here. They are going to be able to pick up the turret. We saw a little bit of lag there, but they engaged coming in.
Yeah, they go in with that Curse of the Sad Mummy. We had Jarvan go in as well, but he still has that Cataclysm ready to go. Clearlove is trying to make it happen. There's the Cataclysm, but fortunately he goes the other way. Jarvan isn't able to pick it up, but it will be actually picked up by PSK, who now has to deal with Calmay there in the back, but 13 up against Messiah. It's going to be the double kill for Messiah, and now they have to be really afraid, and man, what a dodge there from PSK. It goes right through the Dragon Descent. Messiah is there, and he picks up that triple, or at least it's a little bit delayed. Still, 4 kills, one death at the end of the day, and now I can only imagine that the gold has ballooned for Messiah.
And the evasive maneuvers from Jax there from P2K, very impressive, but not enough, of course, against Cassidy champion with that Rift Walk on such a low cooldown. He had the blue buff available. He has 4 kills available now. They might even be able to answer that mid turret here. And World Elite, they're setting themselves up for just one holy hell of a fed Cassidy.
Man, just 4 kills after that. There's the Rift Walk coming out as well. They nearly took down the tower. The creeps still might be able to finish off the job, but now they're going to get cleaned up. Look at that. What, 82 hit points. 82 hit points between 100 something global gold per player and not. But, I mean, World Elite, they know how to play this game. They're just going to wait it out. Now, because the aggression has lessened in the mid, it looks like it's time for a Dragon.
Yeah, so the Dragon Pressure comes out. This is Sin by World Elite. They have 3 members around here, and Xiaomei is closing as well.
Smite is... Yep, no, it didn't actually use it. It didn't need to, but that's going to be the engaged box going out. Man, the Soda Crescendo on top of Clearlove. He's just going to have to run for it. Cal May still in the back with that burnout. He does get exhausted, so he's going to be a little bit less damage, but the Cataclysm comes in. Cal May has to flash out, and now it's just so many hit points missing from both of these teams. Fizziv got back into there, but he's going to have to flash out as well, and by the end of the day, looks like nobody dying from Flashdive, but they were able to pick up Messiah and almost the rest of World Elite. Just fingertips. Everything was on the fingertips. Could have went either way with that fight.
And the communication from World Elite there was quite poor. This is something that we've seen quite a bit in their recent games when it comes to dragons. They let the dragon go down. There was a small skirmish there, but Wei Zhao especially was able to escape. Xiao Mei went in 1v4, lived on low health, ran away. Then Messiah Rift walked in aggressively into 5 members and died to focus fire there. And if you're willing to go in, and that's almost solo queue play right there in terms of just trying to be a hero, he was a freshly shocked 4-kill Cassidy.
Yep.
I know why he was feeling confident, but that was overconfidence, and he paid for it right there.
A little bit of hubris coming into play. So in terms of the cash, and that's now going to be Flashdive up for the first time in a lot of these, well, at least in both of these games, but the first time they've taken the gold lead, about $1,000, and now PSK just defending and farming away at this top turret. He is at 58 creeps, so compared to that of Shyvana, he hasn't really been keeping up with the kill count, but he does have an actual kill to his name as well as that assist, and that's something that Shyvana doesn't have at this point. I mean, I know she's going for that Sunfire, but it's really just her creeps that are keeping her through this one, and Jax, I mean, with that blade there, he's probably going to go for the Ruined King fairly soon.
Yeah, the Bilge Watercolors is a nice early power jump for Jax, but one of the reasons why Jax sees kind of peaks and troughs in terms of competitive play is that gold ceiling. He needs 7,000 gold worth of items.
That was cute.
He needs a Trinity Force, a Blade of the Ruin King, that added together, it's about 7,000 gold worth of offensive items before he can get tanky.
Right.
One of the reasons why Shyvana is so strong is you pick up a Sunfire Cape, you're already a god of split pushing,
right.
and your team fight, your base damage, as I mentioned before, the base damage 580 on the burnout are so high that you can fight with a Trinity Force and be stronger than a Jax until he completes 7,000 gold worth of items. That's why the Jax pick is risky and he needs to get going. But as we see in the trades coming up here.
Yeah, speaking of both of these guys, PSK looks like he's getting the better of it. That's going to be the flash, or the jump, and it's not going to be a flash coming out from Jax. He doesn't actually have it up, and now he has to deal with Clear Love, but does not have that tank ability. As you said, he's not going to come into play for a little while later, but Cal May could not deal with that Jax at this point.
I mean, there was definitely an element of bait going out there. The reason why he didn't use his ultimate until later in the fight was just to reposition so that Xiaomei could get the kill there. Still a beautiful Q coming out from Xiaowei to get the execution damage. And World Elite, they start to pull ahead, but they're not pulling ahead in gold. Look at this, they're 1,300 gold down just because you mentioned the 88 health turret in the mid lane. That's hurting them here. They're 3 turrets to 0 down.
Well, you say that, but it's actually 3-1 now because Clear Love did clean up that top.
Finally.
But, yeah, I mean, you're right. It is a decent amount of global gold going between them, and that's going to bring us pretty much to parity. Could have a fight here in the jungle, but I think that could be a little bit too dangerous. Doesn't matter. We're going to do it anyways. That's a Cataclysm. The culling actually not finishing up on top of Fizziv, but he will go down by the end of it all. Cal May is not looking so good because 13 is in the back. He's still crying his way to victory, but unfortunately he's going to cry himself into a death. Messiah now really low in the back, but he's going to get off a little bit of damage. Top of G4 before dropping. And now it's going to be Cal May and Wei Zhao. They're able to pick up the double. The only one actually to get out of that fight is going to be Valen.
Yeah, Wei Zhao, of course, there was able to free hit for a long, long time there.
Oh, he's going to look. He's going to go looking. The Mystic shot from Wei Zhao should be enough. No, it's going to be the Arcane telling him where he is. And unfortunately, that Sona, she had nowhere to go. She was going to get cut off had she actually run for it, but more and more kills. 10-5 now for World Elite. So much for that gold lead from Flashdive.
And although Ezreal is the champion with so many skill shots, the Arcane Shift does prioritize the closest available enemy champion. It was Sona right there.
Yeah, Bushes.
And without vision, the bush wasn't enough, unfortunately.
That was with the Trinity Force, so that was like the perfect timing for Ezreal to be fighting because he just got that Trinity Force. They did the team fight. He gets the kills. He's up 3-0-2 now, 135 creeps. He's taken the lead in terms of creeps. And in terms of money, I'd venture a guess to say he's probably our top 2 right now.
It's one of those things where when you finish a Trinity Force as Ezreal, that's probably your strongest point in the game just because the stats, the chasing, the burst damage, it gives you everything you need. But you don't have any mobility. He doesn't have boots. He was moving around at 340 or so move speed here, but he didn't need it because no one focused him down. He wasn't zoned from the fight. He didn't have to kite beyond what the Phage passive, of course, was providing from that Trinity Force. Now he goes back, he can sharp, finishes the Merc treads here for some defensiveness and starts to work on that last Whisper and perhaps a Vamp Scepter. This Ezreal is looking monstrous.
Yeah, but G4 is getting really aggressive. He did actually pick up that Brutalizer and the Hex Drink. We'll see how it does for him in this fight, but it looks like a lot of split focus. They don't really know who they want to go on. Finally, it is going to be Messiah as the target, and he just melts under the pressure of the rest of the 5-man, but Wei Zhao picking up a first kill here in the fight. PSK with the Dragon Kick. Clear Love setting that up for the double. They're looking for the kill on top of Wei Zhao, but the Lantern just brings him to safety, and that was a double kill again coming out for Ezreal. He just turns back around, uses the long range. Cal May providing the vision, providing the body block. Cal May picks up the kill, and they're not done yet. They're going to go straight for Valen. A low hit point. Sona is looking extremely tasty for this Dragon, and one more Q will be it, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be that Ignite anyways, and man, World Elite, masters of team fighting, and I wanted to say, Myth, you shouldn't engage here in this jungle, but then they went and did it, and look what happened.
And Xiaomei is getting massive here. He has the Chain Vest on top of the Sunfire Capes. They're going to be taking negligible damage from the whole team of Myth here. It's worth knowing they have no true AP carry here. Of course, Amumu doing nice base magic damages with his abilities, but no need to rush an Aegis here against a team with double AD. Very, very tanky is this Shyvana, with, of course, her passive also adding tankiness to her. Ezreal's 504. He has that Trinity Force completed and some defensive work. The Thorn Mail is the big pickup here. Well pointed out there by Forecourt.
Well, Lucian, Jax, Jarvan. Sounds like a great time to bust out a Thorn.
And now, let's go back to that 1v5 situation. This
Right.
Shyvana can jump into a fight and buy 15 seconds probably before she'll die to 3 or 4 members focus firing.
Well, you saw what she did last round. I mean,
It's
she
just
came
going
in
to
a
get
little,
scarier. With
came
the
in a
Thorn
little
mail.
late, but she cared not for any kind of the damage that was being reflected. And oh my goodness, like it almost seems like Shyvana is just doing a better AOE job and a better, finishing than Amumu at this point. I mean, Amumu's sitting there at 2-2-3. Look at Calme just kind of tank through the damage here from PSK. I mean, he is starting to wear her down, but she is just doing
He's
really
gonna
bad.
win this fight.
And that Sunfire coming back, that burnout just walking circles around him and just taking a giant chomp at the end. You called it. She's going to win that fight.
It's worth noting she did not have Ignite up. Ignite was used by Jax in that
Doesn't
trade
need it
there
when you're
too.
on fire.
Don't need it when you're on fire. No need for the double fire.
It's always great when like Malphite gets on fire and then he has a frozen heart as well. It's like I don't understand physics anymore. But yeah, Calme doing amazing work in one-on-one Jax, who does have that Blade of the Ruin King, but that's it to his name. 20 minutes. That's all he has to his name. 1-5-3 Jax. It is looking dimmer and dimmer for a Flashdive victory.
So although Messiah's died quite a few times here, he is actually putting on a pretty good masterclass on what to do with Kassadin now in patch 3.13. To give viewers an idea, he has maxed the E here. He does have that AoE wave clear and AoE slow available to him. So that's a good thing, whenever minions are pushing, he can clear up those waves very, very fast. He's gone for the very fast Archangels here, which of course, if you upgrade the Archangels early, you're getting 8 mana per spell cast, which is going to charge it up fast, get you that Seraph's Embrace, and he's going to look to pick up the Zonias. You see Jax, he's in trouble.
Yeah, PSK did get that dragon kicked to his name, and that just put him in a really bad position. Now, he did get off a great counter-strike, but it's not nearly enough. Not up against Messiah's 5-4-4, and, our Lee Sin is not doing too shabby either. 2-2-5, he has Madred's Razor, believe it or not. I also did notice that he had the Sightstone earlier as well, but that just goes really well with the Safeguard. And it's been paying off in dividends. Another kill on Jax. He's now slipped to 1-6-3, so he's lost duels up against Shyvana, and now he's getting ganked. And look at that cash. 8,000 gold coming out for Wei Zhao, and just nobody can compare to that.
No, absolutely not. Kassadin here, one of the reasons why Zhonya's and Seraph's is so important on Kassadin is, although you don't have that health, you're not going building a Rod of Ages, you don't have the 2,000 plus health that ability will give you. That will give you. As you see, Messiah burst down Sona in 0 seconds there.
Yeah, Valen dying way before the camera can even get to him. 13's going to throw out the curse. Only got Calme. Was looking for that extra tower damage, but it's just not going to pay off. Boss goes down. Wei Zhao dominating. PSK comes back from the dead, gets exhausted, and he just has to put that tail between his legs. So Calme is going to show him how it's done. A lot of damage going out. Look at Clearlove. Even Clearlove at this point is just landing so much damage on top of PSK, taking so many of these tower hits, and they don't care.
I mean, Clearlove taking the tower hits is one thing. Basically, at this point, Shyvana's going to be taking almost 0 damage from the turret with all that armor coming out here. And World Elite, it took 3 starts here, but they're finally looking like they'll convincingly take down the win here. Myth, they need to scale up. They need to get some more power. The Ravenous Hydra is completing this Jarvan. This Jarvan's going to be doing some impressive burst. He's also going to die in a second.
If he lives. Yeah. He's a glass cannon, so to speak, at this point.
A glass cannon melee carry for someone that doesn't have an ability like Rift Walk or even range damage abilities, truly. I mean, it's a very hard thing to pull off in League of Legends here.
I mean, the Flag and Drag is great for initiation tool, but kind of leaves you very much wanting for that escape tool. So if you do get into these awkward positions, it's great for escape, but then you can't initiate. It's like you got to take one or the other. PSK deciding maybe a red steal, try to do a little bit of taste of their own medicine, but he gets chased right back out of that jungle. Look at the team of World Elite just converging on top of PSK. 1-6-3, still with that Blade of the Road King, and very likely about to become a 1-7. But what was that kick, Clearlove? I guess it didn't matter.
He
Messiah
preloaded
was
the
right
kick there, but it was actually smart play from Jax. Was able to push him towards safety, but not enough safety.
Not enough safety. In fact, there was no safety there. There was the Messiah waiting with open arms. But, I mean, the pressure now coming out from World Elite, they're really putting it to these turrets. I mean, they've been methodically taking them down. It's 4-3 for the turrets, but the cash is starting to really get a little big at this point. Almost 7,000 between them. Lucian throwing out the culling, hits a lot of creeps. But that seems to be like the theme of Lucian today. We haven't really seen him do much.
I don't mind the culling being used just because it kills the wave, and if you look at the minimap here, MiTH actually have waves pushing in good spots here,
Yeah,
so they're
the
happy
top.
to buy a bit of time
Yep.
for those top minions, especially to push. And WCG might be caught here, but the Dark Passage is available.
Yep.
The Sad Mummy does not amount.
That lantern is so good, but at this point, it is going to be another big team fight. Cal May in the back did get exhausted, so he wasn't able to quite put out as much pressure as he wanted. Double kill comes out from Shyvana. Both Jarvan and Amumu dropping. Triple to Cal May as well. Those Qs are starting to bite real hard, and they're looking for the quad. Boss is in a bad position. It's going to be Messiah picking it up anyways. 4-for-0 exchange. That's going to be another tower, and that gold lead is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And we get another indication as to why we see so much Shyvana in competitive play. Triple kills, not a damage item to be built apart from the Sunfire, of course, which doubles as a great tankiness item there. Shyvana is a monster, and she's 6-0-8 in this game.
Shyvana, 2 for 2 in terms of games, and I think she's going to take home 2 wins. Really good start for her here in the WCG Grand Finals in Kunshan. Man, that Jarvan, he's going to be trying to make that play, but he will actually grab the Ignite kill on top of Ezreal. It's almost like a pittance at this point, however. That's the first death come out for WCG. We still have yet to see Shyvana go down either.
6-0-8, 6-1-9, 8-4-8 are the scores on the carries. They tell a tale of this game. So you remember trying to contest the blue steal. He's going to perish for it. 24-8, this is ballooned out to very, very quickly here. And remember, the gold was even, what, 5, 6, 7 minutes ago? The gold is now 10K in the advantage of World Elite.
My goodness, Cal May going godlike. I'm pretty sure that World Elite is very happy at how this has turned out for her. Going for even more tanky items after that. It looks like it will be a Flashdive actually picking up the Dragon, but it's pretty inconsequential how much that reduces the gold.
2,100 gold on this shot for Shyvana here. Perhaps a straight up Spirit Visage coming out here. It's not really necessary given the lack of magic damage on the enemy team, but does synergize well with her kit. She's considering as options is Xiao Mei here.
Nope, it's going to be Warden's Mill. Yeah. What do you do up against 3 AD? Yeah, more armor. Sounds great.
And the sad thing is here is that hitting Shyvana at this point with Thorn Mail, with all that armor, with the Cold Steel passive from the Warden's Mail, no fun for Lucian or any of the AD carries on the side of MiTH Flashdive here. But ignoring her, her damage is not ignorable.
It really isn't at this point. I mean, the Sunfire, the burnout, the double strikes coming out from her Q, it's as we see, she's gone godlike. It's 7-0-8 and just doing some amazing work here up against Flashdive. So we are in a very real danger of going 2-0 for the first games for Flashdive in terms of 2 losses, 2 up, 2 down. It's a little disheartening to see. But there's PSK. Thinks better of it, but fortunately, already used that dive. Had nowhere to leap to. Anyways, Mumu going to get caught out at the end. Look at Fizzif with the Superman coming in. The box goes out. That's going to be the true shot barrage as well. Cal May in the back, basically just keeping 3 of them at bay as WCG takes down G4 again for another kill. And now 13 on the run. Valen and Boss going to be juking out as well. Messiah thinking, yeah, maybe I can do this. He throws up the shield from that new Seraph's Embrace, goes unstoppable, and maybe is even going to stay right here. Does get hit by the bandage. Doesn't matter, the Dark Passage as well.
The smooth moves. You can see the experience, right? They knew exactly what they needed to do to get the kills, to get out, and I think World Elite, they'll be able to finish it off here.
Well, that's going to be the second inhibitor, and the only thing stopping them between a win and a loss at this point is basically nothing. I mean, that's going to be 1 turret. The second is going to drop extremely quick. Ezreal is hitting like a truck. PSK on the other side of safety. He's going to die, and Messiah goes godlike.
And it looks like we're going to be wishing GG well played to World Elite here with the hometown crowd. They were only the 2nd seed from China.